Right, so along this scribe mark that I put in with the drill, I'm just going to put some centre dots, and I'm going to space them out roughly 10mm, except the last one is a little bit short. I'm going to drill them out to a 10mm clearance, I think. Just make sure we've got enough clearance on it, because I don't suppose it's going to be absolutely accurate. That last one didn't want to go. That wasn't going to have it because I spaced that out a little bit too little. So I've put a very tiny 6mm tapered bit in the die grinder. I've had some nasty experiences with this catching up, and I nearly broke my fingers where it caught up. It bent the tool and really gashed my fingers quite nastily. So you have to be really careful that it doesn't catch up. I'm wearing gloves because the bits that come off it are like needles. They're like glass shards. They're finer and sharper than anything I've ever come across. You get them in your fingers and it's like the worst splinters you've ever had in your life. Anyway, I think that's probably enough. No, maybe a little bit more. Just to the top. So I'm going in real time, very gently. Now obviously speed it up, but let's see if that'll do it. So I'm just checking the alignment of the hole just to make sure there's far enough, and I think that is this time. So we're just going to tap the hole in the plate, 10mm. If there's enough room once I put all the electrics and stuff in, I might actually weld a nut on the back of this as well, so that you've got like double thickness. Although this thing probably won't get used hardly at all. I just don't want that to be a weak spot where you keep doing it up and undoing it and knacker the thread, because there's not enough. You know, 6mm thick of a 10mm thread isn't an awful lot. But we'll see. Can't sort that out till we've got the electrics all in. I don't want to go and put it on now and then find that that's the only thing stopping me getting the electrics in. So let's have a little look, see if it all runs. Holds it nice and tight. Loosen it off and it runs beautiful. Holds it in place, and obviously you can put the lever where you want it. Yep, oh, got my glove. Yeah, I think that'll do it a treat. Lovely. So do the other one and then we can weld them to the plate. Right, well I've done the other one. I didn't bother boring you with doing the second one. I'm just going to mark where the centre of this plate's got to go. It's a 4-inch plate and it's about 11-inch square big plate that we're going on to. And I'm putting it right on the edge, because sort of corner to corner, because I'm lacking a bit of height. I think I mentioned it in the previous part of the video that I'm only just going to have enough height on this beam. A 12-inch beam would probably have been nicer, think that's got it. It's not anything fancy, but I think that weld's got it. Yeah, so 12-inch beam would have probably been nicer, but they didn't have any of that kicking about up the scrapyard. So the 10 was the next best thing. And it's plenty heavy enough. The 12 would have been a lot heavier and probably a bit over the top. Now this is a little bit over the top as it is, but I like to do things that aren't going to fall apart. Let's check the level of that one. Get that one welded on. See if it's still level. No, it's gone down a bit for some reason. I must have had it level in the first place. Normally that would have pulled up towards me. Anyway, never mind. See if we can start putting it all together. We're getting there. We're on the homeward stretch, I think. I think what I'll probably do eventually is tack those 12mm bolts in from the inside, because I think once I've got everything else in there, it's going to be a bit of a fiddle to get my Allen key in there if I need to keep undoing them or tightening them up, although I put nylock nuts on there, so we might do that. So let's try it out. We've got an issue. You know, I said I didn't have enough height. I still haven't got enough height. Bugger. But I hold it in place. It has the desired effect, but that is just touching on the floor. So what I think I'm going to have to do, gain somehow, I'm going to put some spacers in anyway, join the 2 feet together, but then we'll have to put something underneath to lift it up a little bit. So I'll have to have a little think about that. See what we can come up with. But as you can see, you can put it in virtually any position between 90 and upright. So what I've decided to do, a couple of bits of bar, I think about 1.25" by 10mm or something or other, and then I'm going to put some nuts underneath just to raise it up just enough. That's all we need, back and front, just to get that little bit of clearance that we're going to need. Turn around, put the other one in. Now that one's a bit tight. It's obviously all a little bit squiffy, so force that in. Oh, come off, Clem. Now we'll weld the underside. I won't have to grind them off because they'll be up in the air once I put these nuts on. Keep dropping the damn things. Couple of tacks either side. Not going to put a lot on there. Same the other side. Sorted. Right. Let's see if we've got enough room now. This is getting very heavy. I'm glad I didn't use any heavier plate or heavier channel, angle, I-beam, RSJ, whatever you call it. That's got a little bit tight for some reason on that side. Quite know why. I've got a bit of weld on the thread, but now you can see we've got perfect clearance. That's all it needed. It's sort of about 5/8. It's a little bit tight still. Just clears it nicely. Lovely job. Yeah, quite pleased with that. So I have tacked the bolts in. That what was happening, they'd tightened up on themselves, and we've got a bit of a wobble. I don't know if that's the bench or if it's the nuts. But anyway, I'm not too worried about that. So yeah, those nylocks, I don't know why, but for some reason they tightened up on themselves, so I've welded the studs in and loosened the nuts off a bit, and it's much freer now. You can put that in any position now very easily. So there you go. We're getting there. All I've got to do now is try and sort out the electrics, which I'm going to try and hide up there if there's enough room. I'll get the transformer box and all the gubbins and shorten all the wiring, and then paint it. So that'll be it. So we're on the homeward stretch. So let's see if we can figure out what to do with the wiring. I don't know whether I'm going to put the switches on the outside or somewhere else. Right, so I have de-wired the transformer and the speed controller, just taken all the wires off so I can try and get everything mounted. And I've decided I'm going to put the transformer up here because that's about the best space for it, but unfortunately I've had to move the motor slightly, just sort of canted it on the slots because it was catching there on that bolt. And had I done that in the first place, just twisted it round a bit, I might not have had to put the nuts underneath because it's given me a bit more space under there. Anyway, I might be able to take the nuts off afterwards, but we'll leave them for the time being. Kettle's just boiled, so I'm just going to make myself a quick brew. So I'm getting a bit dry. Some random shots of dried horse hoof whilst the tea brews. Okay, so I've got my tea. Now this is where I'm going to stick this. And conveniently there was two mounting holes on the front face of this, so I'm going to use both of them. So I'm just going to mark where that one is. And this is only 10mm plate, so I'm just going to put a 5mm bolt in there. I'll try and get it in the centre because this, unfortunately, this edge is was the cut edge from a sheared edge, and it's not quite straight. Anyway, so we'll just wet a 4.2mm hole in there. That should be deep enough, plenty deep enough really. Just clear out the muck. Get me tap. I've probably said this a million times before, but you may be new. I use 5mm a lot on the window jobs that I do, so I've got a lot of 5mm taps and 4.2mm drills. Very handy size. I've just got some little socket headed set screws that I'm going to use. I do like a a socket head. I always think it looks nice. See if we can get that square. Do it, I reckon. Nice and tight. Looks fairly square along the top. So what we've got to do is put a bracket at the back here somewhere. I'm going to come down off the plate and screw into this heatsink. It's just an aluminium heatsink at the back, so it's not going to do any damage or cause any problems. So what I'm going to use, I've just found this bit of inch 3mm line about, so I'm just going to cut that off. You can see where I've marked it, and we'll weld that on. This is 1/8 or 3mm, a little bit thin for this saw really, especially if you've got coarse teeth in, which this has, because it can, if you're not careful, you can see there it starts to chatter, but it will catch up and bend the material rather than cut it, and then you break your blade. So I was just being a bit lazy and not cutting it with a hacksaw or with the disc cutter. I'm just going to mark the centre line, then a couple of holes, and we'll just drill them. Again, I've left them at 4.2 so I can spot through them. So I'm just going to hold it there, give it a tack, and then take that out and weld it up. Nice shot of my back, isn't it? Now, I've just realised as soon as I've taken it out, I should have left it in there and spotted it. So let's just slot it back in. Just hold it in place and spot those. I can drill them out with it out much easier, and then tap it. So let's just weld this thing up first of all. Welder's turned up a little bit high. I just forgot to turn it down after I've been doing those quite big welds on those little ears. Never mind. Right, so I've drilled these. I'm just going to quickly tap them. Well, that one's not going in particularly straight, is it? Never mind. Right, so let's see if we can put it all together. You can see I've opened up the holes in the bracket because when I spotted it, because I hadn't got it bolted in, it wasn't quite right, so I had to just open them up a little bit. But I think it'll work. Get these fiddly little 5mm in. That's got it. Nice and solid. So, next job. Try and get the speed controller in somewhere. Now, there's no point making an enclosure of its own because it's so tiny. I'm going to try and stick it under here and leave it back a little bit, so I've got enough room for the switches in front of it to get all the wires and all the rest of it in about there somewhere. So that one over there. So what I need is a little bit of light plate. I'm not going to use anything too heavy. I found this kicking around. I thought it was 14 gauge, but I think it's actually only 16 gauge because it's pretty light. but it'll do the job. I want it about 1.5 inches by 9.5. So let's whip that off. Give it a quick clean up, because as you can see it's covered in years and years of rust. Just quickly sand over it. Now we need to put the bend in it. I've worked out that the front of the transformer is just under 4 inch, or just under 100 mil. So that's where I'm going to bend it at. Now for some reason this has gone really tight. Can't work that out. Oh, actually what it is, there's a stop down here which you can use. I don't know quite what it does. It's sort of, you can tighten it up, but anyway it's jammed up, just needed undoing a bit. So there we go, that's my bend. So that's how I'm going to put it, roughly like that. You can see I've got 3 mounting holes there, mounting screws, and I'm just going to catch those 2 on that end. And that'll give me plenty of room in the front there to get all my wires in, to get my switches in. So let's see if we can work out where those mounting holes are going to go. Now I wasn't going to show you this, but I'm quite pleased with it. I've just done this by measurement, literally measured and transferred, and look at how those holes are spot on. I amaze myself sometimes. Right, so I screwed it on. Come on, focus you thing. And I put my mountings in, my switches in I mean. See there, and put the hole in to mount it conveniently in the hole that was already on the transformer. So let's see if we can get that on. It's going to be a bit of a fiddle I think, trying to get the bolt in and get it done up. There's not a lot of room back there. Right, that's not going to work that way, so that's it, turn it up that way. So just get to it. It's a right fiddle with these, trying to get hold of these things, and look, it's way too sloppy that, so with that one bolt I'm going to have to try and figure out a way of attaching it at the back there. I'm not sure if I can come off some of these mounting holes. There's that one there up to the case there, but I don't know what's behind that casing, so I'm not sure, but I'm going to put something there. So right, well I've had a think, I've done it, I've just mounted another bracket down from the one I put at the back to mount the transformer on. I've put the wire coming out that side through a grommet, just wire tied it to the casing, and that's nice and solid now. That looks quite good I think. It's quite neat considering it's all just bodged together. Let's give it a go. We've got power, and there we go. It works. Turn it the other way, and it works that way as well. Let's just turn it round, let you have a quick look from the business end. Now you might notice that the big sprocket has got a right wobble on. I'm not quite sure why that is, because I drilled that in the lathe. So I don't know, unless it's a spindle on the motor shaft, which it could be I suppose, but hey ho, I don't think it's going to make much odds. So there we go. Let's see if we can flip it vertically. I don't think it'll get used vertically very much. I think horizontally is going to be its most useful position. There you can see now the bracket I put off the bottom of the original bracket. That's just holding that case. And there you go, and I have some torque on there. I guess it's that gearbox. Does not slow that motor at all. And it's really got some torque in it. I would find another gearbox like that and make some sort of a bender or twister. So there you go. It works. And I think I've accomplished what I set out to do. It's a relatively neat package. Better than putting it on that other thing that I was going to put it on, that case. So there you go. All I've got to do now is paint it, which I should get done tomorrow. Okay, so it's tomorrow and it's painted. Not the best paint job in the world. I was a little bit short of time, but it's done. I didn't paint the gearbox because it was covered in oil from years of being used, and I just didn't have the time to degrease it all and get that sorted, but it's got a coat of paint of its own on, so I think it'll be okay. So there it is. All I've got to do now is probably make some sort of fixture that I can either attach my TIG gun to or at least prop against. So there's always something else to do. And I've got to find a job for it. I haven't actually got a job for it at the moment. But the worst thing is, what the hell am I going to do with it? It's another one of those bits of kit that's going to be useful one day, but with my shop being so tiny, I've got to find somewhere to put it. Never mind, I'm sure we'll cope. Don't forget to check out my Amazon pages for tools and equipment that I use in this and other videos. And if you have any questions, stick them in the comments below and I'll try and answer them. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.